Donahue, News Center 6.
Mr. President, I'm sure that you've wrestled with this question, which we hear from many, many Americans. How can he send 20,000 Americans perhaps to die in Bosnia when he himself wouldn't go to Vietnam to fight for his country?
I can do it because I'm the president, and it's my job to make these decisions. For one thing, Vietnam was a war. The presidents who were there then, I believe they did what they thought was right. That was their job, and they did it. This is very different. I was urged by some to send troops there when the war was going on, and I declined to do it. I think our country has learned that there are limits to our ability to interfere in someone else's war.
If we go in there and we're there for 8 or 9 or 10 months and the mission is not accomplished and not fulfilled, haven't we done more damage to the alliance than we would have if we didn't go in the first place?
If we leave after a year and they decide that they don't like the benefits of peace and they're going to start fighting again, that does not mean NATO failed. It means we gave them a chance to make their peace, and they blew it.
Last summer, in the cool, pristine corridors of the National Institutes of Health, someone committed a very hot crime. Whoever it was deliberately and maliciously poisoned this pregnant young scientist with a dangerous radioactive isotope.
What's going on? It is truly a mystery.
May I have your attention, please? Will the assigned students please go to the nurse? The assigned students to the nurse?
It's an ever more common ritual at schools all over the country. Children lining up to pop a pill, their midday dose of Ritalin.
Well, you tell Mommy that you're going to need some more Ritalin.
Ritalin is the drug that's prescribed for children with attention deficit disorder, what used to be called hyperactivity.
Nothing comes close to what this medication does for children.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Ed Bradley.
I'm Steve Croft.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Those stories and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
There are definite reasons we created Ford Windstar to be the only minivan with available all-speed traction control and four-wheel anti-lock disc brakes. Reasons it has a wide stance for secure handling and also meets 1998 federal passenger car safety standards. We'd like to show you one more reason, but it's still a month or so away. Introducing the 1996 Ford Windstar, created for the most important people in the world.
As you know, Kellogg's is the raisin brand that tastes so good, people forget it's good for them.
I didn't forget. Forget what? That it tastes good.
No, people forget Kellogg's Raisin Bran is good for you.
How could they forget? With all these raisins, of course they taste good.
No, good for you, for you.
Wouldn't it be great if it was also good for you? Huh?
Save up to $7 on the Star Wars trilogy from Kellogg's Raisin Bran. Star Wars, the original version on video, one last time.
To fight plaque, hold your brush at a 45-degree angle. Use strokes half a tooth wide.
Why brush the hard way?
Gentle.
The Norelco Dentaflex is tough on plaque, gentle on gums. The new Norelco Dentaflex.
Oh, not now. It's 1 in the morning. My brain's fried.
Just give me your CD drive.
Give it a rest, will ya?
The Compact LTE 5000. Has it changed your life yet?
Last Friday, the day the Time magazine CNN poll showed more than half the country opposed to President Clinton sending troops to Bosnia, the five of us sat down with the president in the Roosevelt Room at the White House to get an idea of why he is so sure that what he is doing in Bosnia is the right thing to do, and whether he really means to bring the boys home within a year, or about a year, as he put it. At one point in that conversation, Ed Bradley asked him about the three parties in that conflict.
Your goal is, in this year, to keep the parties separate, to, at the end of the year, have a secure environment. If there is not a secure environment at the end of the year, the feeling is that if we leave, the parties will be back at each other's throats. Do we leave anyway?
Some people believe that, but I'm not sure that's right.
But if that is the case, do we leave anyway?
Well, if that is the case, we should still terminate the mission. We are giving these people a chance to make peace. We dare not become an occupying force. That's not what we want. We want to stay about a year so there'll be enough time for the elections to be held, for the humanitarian and the other reconstruction work to begin, and to let these people see the benefits of peace.
Mr. President, I think the point that Ed was getting at was that we've said or implied that we would be there for a year or roughly a year. Let's suppose that things are not going well at the end of 8 or 10 months. By setting a deadline, there's been much criticism. By setting a deadline, are we opening ourselves up to manipulation by all sorts of people? And what happens if things are not going well in 8 or 10 months? Are we going to cut and run, or are we going to stay the course?
Well, first of all, let's define what staying the course is. Let's define what success is. Let's define what this mission is. All right, that's very important. What they asked us to do was to supervise the separation of the military forces, oversee the ceasefire, and maintain a generally secure environment, not to be a local police establishment, a generally secure environment, while they hold elections, while they establish their government, while they begin the humanitarian and the economic rebuilding that needs to be done. Now, for a force of this size to stay longer than that would run the risk of our almost turning into an occupation force rather than an enabling force. We don't believe that's right, neither do they. So this mission at this size with these players should not stay there longer than about a year. They just shouldn't do it.
Sir, you talk about the pledges that the three parties have made, and they've signed a document. So far, in the history of this conflict, of the last 4 or 5 years, those pledges that they make have meant zero.
Well, they have never reached an agreement like this before. And I would remind you that the ceasefire has been underway now for a couple of months, and it's held very well. Now there is a peace, there is a ceasefire, there are very specific agreements, and I will say again, the military experts who have looked at this have remarked on how astonishing it is that the military provisions makes it clear that we have a limited mission, we can be well armed, we are very well trained for this, and we have the power to respond with overwhelming force if attacked. I am convinced we can do this. And I will say again, if we do not do it, everybody talks about what happens if we do it. If we don't do it, what will happen? They will revert to war. The killing will start again. The prospect of it spreading is great, involving a lot of European nations, then pulling us in. Some of them are our NATO allies. We're obliged by treaty to get involved. Then we'll be there in a situation where we will certainly take more casualties, and in which we will have passed up an incredible opportunity to bring a peace to the most troubled part of Europe since the end of the Cold War.
You talk about this pledge. You say we're going in because they've pledged. They're still doing ethnic cleansing. They pledged they wouldn't. They're still burning houses down. They're still evicting Muslims from their homes. They pledged not to. You know, I go back to the question about how can you believe their pledges?
That's why they ask us to come in and help to separate the forces so that they will have an atmosphere of calm. But the ceasefire itself, the shooting war, which everybody seems to assume that we're going to be involved in, as if there had never been a peace agreement, has not resumed.
But what about the ethnic cleansing? I mean, that's the most outrageous part of the whole
our job,
business over
let me
there.
just say this. The peace agreement says, let's talk about that. The peace agreement says that the NATO forces and others, there will be more than 25 nations involved, will separate the armed forces, maintain the ceasefire, and create a secure environment, which will then permit the refugees to return to their homes, return to their communities, and if there are disputes about who owns a house, there's even a commission set up to resolve that.
We're going to help refugees get back to their homes?
The refugees will be returned by civilian authorities. What we have to do is to maintain a generally secure environment.
Okay, a civilian authority takes a refugee back to his home, okay? And the fellow who's in the home now says, you can't do it. And the fight breaks out.
We're not involved in that. There's a whole separate civilian apparatus for resolving all of that. That is not our job.
So we're not neutral in this. We more than implied that we want to rearm the Muslims. This puts us in a camp, does it not?
No, it does not. I mean, everybody knows what all of our sympathies were about what happened. I've said, I'm on record repeatedly as saying that I think that the Serbs bear the heaviest responsibility here, that they started the war. That's one of the reasons that I wanted the Russian troops to be in our sector with the Americans. Because people generally think of the Russians as being sympathetic with the Serbs, just as they think of the Americans as being sympathetic with the Bosnian people and the government there. What we have said quite openly is that our military would not be involved, directly or indirectly, not the people there, not any other part of our military, in equipping or training them, but that we would attempt to coordinate an effort to get other countries to do it, because we anticipate that no matter how much they agree to reduce the arms, the Bosnians will be at a disadvantage. And when we leave, if we don't want the war to resume, everybody's got to have some capacity for self-defense.
Is there an agreement now, Mr. President, with any other, even say third party, to arm the Bosnians? Is that in force now?
There is not an agreement now, but there are a lot of people who are interested in doing it, and there's been an assessment team in Bosnia that has come back that's evaluated the arms situation.
Your intention is to see that they have the capability to defend themselves once we leave?
That's correct.
What happens, not when maybe some of the warring factions get going again, let's assume that that doesn't happen, but what happens when there's terrorism? What happens when an American soldier is taken hostage?
No one could dispute the fact that in each of our conflicts where there have been problems, our military has learned from them and built on them. Now, that does not mean that we will not have any casualties. That's what I said to the American people when I spoke to them. You cannot assume there won't be any casualties.
Of hostages.
I have no reason to believe that, that the hostage situation is the most likely thing to occur, because to get and maintain hostages requires the support of some sort of political authority, which would imply an undermining of the peace agreement, that it wouldn't exist anymore, and I don't expect that to happen. If we did not do this, we would run the risk that the war would start again, which is certain, I think. There would be a considerable risk that it would spread, and America would have no standing as a leader in an alliance of great democracies that we depend upon to work with us to fight the proliferation of nuclear and chemical and biological weapons, to fight terrorism, to work on a whole range of security interests that affect us right here at home. Now, if we give that up, we will pay a very high price in things that directly affect our security, and we will put far, far more of our young people in uniform at risk in the future because we blew the opportunity to take a leading role in making this peace.
Why do you think this is such a tough sale to the American people?
I think the American people have mixed feelings about this.
Agreed.
I think they watched for 4 years while those people were put in concentration camps, where those little girls and the women were raped as a matter of policy, while people were slaughtered, while half the country was either killed or made homeless. I think it tore at their hearts. I think they would like to see our country help to put an end to this. But there's the flip side of it, is the feeling that there's not really a peace to keep, that there won't be an agreement there except on paper, that the people in Bosnia have been at each other's throats for centuries, and they will be till the end of time. That is not a fair reading of their history. I would remind you that when this war broke out, in the center of Sarajevo, there was a Muslim mosque, an Orthodox cathedral, a Catholic church, and a Jewish synagogue right next together in the center of the city. 1 in 4 of the marriages in Sarajevo was a mixed marriage. The congressional delegations coming back from there, even though they know that this is not a risk-free mission, have said that they were overwhelmed by the ordinary citizens of Bosnia coming up to them saying, thank you for doing this. We want peace. We're sick of war. We're sick of
ordinary
this.
citizens, sir. I mean, the other day, they were burning the American flag in the Serbian part of Sarajevo. And
that's because those people are worried that the Bosnian government will not protect their civil rights because of the past problems. But the peace agreement obligates the Bosnian government to do it. If there's one place these people can live together again in peace, it's in Sarajevo.
At the point of a gun. At the point of our guns.
No, not at the point of our guns. Our soldiers won't even be in Sarajevo.
If we leave and the Croats gobble up the Muslims, the Serbs come back in, I mean, it turns into chaos. A lot of people think that's extremely likely. Then what have we accomplished? What have we done?
Well, first of all, if the worst happens, if the worst happens, what we did was we gave them a chance. We gave them a chance. The United States and the world community is not in a position to guarantee results. We can't guarantee results forever and ever. I can't promise peace anywhere in the world forever and ever. If we were in a position of having to guarantee results everywhere, then no country would ever do anything. So we're not guaranteeing results. We're giving them a chance. And I think it is a risk that is well worth taking. I think that to end the slaughter, to stabilize Europe, to secure America's leadership for all those reasons, it is a risk worth taking. And I think the risk of not doing it is far greater.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. After the cameras were turned off, the president told us that years from now, he will feel good about trying to save lives in Bosnia rather than refusing to help. He acknowledged to us that putting American soldiers in harm's way is a huge political risk for him. If it backfires and costs him the election, well, he agreed he'd rather be right than president.
Yes, another morning, another trek to the office. But in the new Mercedes E-Class, you're in one of the safest cars on the road. You're inside a protective cage with front airbags and, get this, side airbags. Heaven knows there are animals on these roads.
In business, you can't always count on having enough time. But you can count on AT&T, because only AT&T guarantees you a competitive price. Our 1-800-COMPARE Center will give you an immediate side-by-side price comparison, and we're so sure that our prices are competitive that if you don't agree, we'll give you 1 month's worth of long distance up to $500. These days, you can't count on much, but you can count on AT&T for the life of your business.
Something wonderful is here to tempt you at breakfast. Kellogg's Honey Roasted Pecan Temptations cereal. Roasted pecans, luscious golden honey, crisp, crunchy oven-baked flakes of corn. Kellogg's Temptations cereal. Irresistibly delicious honey roasted pecan. And low-fat French vanilla almond too.
Jason Robards and Meg Tilly in the story of a mother who abandons her family and the people left behind to pick up the pieces. Journey, tonight.
This is Dan Rather, CBS News. With American troops aboard a C-130 Hercules. Destination, Tuzla, Bosnia, where next week the mobilization of American forces moves into high gear. We'll bring you this story from Tuzla all next week on the CBS Evening News.
It's not the kind of thing that's supposed to happen, and certainly not at America's foremost scientific research complex. But last summer, in the cool, pristine corridors of the National Institutes of Health, someone committed a very hot crime. Whoever it was deliberately and maliciously poisoned a pregnant young scientist with a dangerous radioactive isotope. While the dose was far from lethal, it was more than enough to raise serious questions about the effects on her long-term health and the health of her unborn baby. And the deliberate poisoning also raised 2 more questions. Who did it, and why? The National Institutes of Health sprawls over 300 suburban acres in Bethesda, Maryland. 60 buildings, 2,000 laboratories that make it the economic and intellectual center of biomedical research, not just in the United States, but around the world. And it was that reputation that brought 2 of China's top young scientists, Dr. Marianne Ma and her husband, Dr. Bill Zhang, here to work on the cutting edge of research into cancer and AIDS. They certainly never expected that anyone would try and harm them.
We're stunned. We come to here, want to contribute to science, and we want to do some work to the human being, to find some good way to treat the cancer patient. But we never expect ourselves become to the victim.
This is the laboratory where Dr. Marianne Ma first discovered that she had been contaminated with radioactive material. She was sitting here at her desk, 4 months pregnant, getting ready to go home. Her husband, Bill, was conducting a radiation check with a Geiger counter, which was part of his cleanup routine. Somewhere around here, as he moved towards the desk, the Geiger counter began to click. My wife. And 4 weeks later, when they made this home video, the Geiger counter was still clicking.
That is very strong signal here.
Medical tests later indicated that months after she was poisoned, Marianne Ma was still radioactive. The Geiger counter was reacting to phosphorus-32, or P32, a tasteless, odorless, radioactive chemical used in thousands of laboratories for everything from diagnosing and treating cancer to tracking the movement of genes. Like most radioactive materials, the use of P32 is controlled by the federal government. It's supposed to be carefully accounted for and locked securely away when not in use. Yet someone managed to get hold of about an eyedropper full of P32 and use it to poison Marianne Ma. She believes it was somebody inside the building.
What you're saying is that somebody at the National Institutes of Health, a scientist,
Yes.
a well-educated person,
Yes.
had to have done this.
Yes.
Yes. I don't think it's the outside the building person done it.
Had to be somebody on the inside.
Yes.
And also we get along well with everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
Aside from the fact that this was almost certainly a deliberate act, everything else is open to dispute and subject to all sorts of suspicions. Everything from whodunit to how much radiation Dr. Ma received to the effect it might have on her unborn child. Trying to sort it all out, you've got the NIH, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the Energy Department, not to mention the FBI, which has launched a criminal probe into the incident.
It could not have been done accidentally.
Attorney Lynn Bernabe represents Doctors Ma and Zhang. She believes that whoever poisoned Dr. Ma with a P32 slipped it into her lunch, which she kept in a conference room refrigerator near the lab. Investigators followed a trail of contamination to a spot of radiation on the carpet, which has since been removed. And 2 weeks later, they found a water cooler near the lab that had also been spiked with P32. 26 others, including Bill Zhang, were slightly contaminated.
What we think is possible is that the water cooler was contaminated afterward to throw off attention from Marianne, to make it look as though she weren't the sole target.
Poison your colleagues with radioactive material?
Well, unfortunately, that's what's happening.
In fact, it's happened a lot. Government records show that in recent years, laboratory researchers were poisoned with P32 at Brown and Duke universities, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and at New York's Albert Einstein Medical Center. Paul Goldberg is the editor of a scientific newsletter widely circulated among cancer researchers.
Is there someone out there who is a researcher or a doctor or a traveling scientist who has moved from Brown to Duke to Albert Einstein and hauls out a little eyedropper of P32 and drops it in somebody's food or a water cooler?
I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think what you would find is that we are dealing with a mode of behavior rather than one perpetrator. I think this may be the way scientists go berserk.
Goldberg says every profession has its own pathology, that demented individuals will strike out with the weapons that they have at hand. Besides P32, the only things these incidents seem to have in common, he says, is that they weren't accidental and that no one has been killed.
These people do not, whoever is doing this, do not seem to intend to commit murder. What their intent seems to be to do something else.
What do you mean?
To scare, to set off the fireworks, to deliver a shot across the bow. The intent may be to set off the Geiger counters and then step back into the shadows and observe.
Because that's what scientists do.
It's a form of what scientists do, yes. It's a perversion of what scientists do, but yes, they do observe.
Why would someone want to poison Marianne Ma and the baby that she was carrying? Well, Lynn Bernabe thinks that someone may have been trying to get Marianne to abort her pregnancy.
We don't know who did this to her right now. What we know is that there's, the facts as we know them now, there's only one individual that appears to have a motivation to do that. But we're not certain.
And that is?
Well, Dr. Weinstein, who was their supervisor,
She's talking about John Weinstein, by all accounts a brilliant Harvard-trained medical doctor with a PhD in biophysics and an absolutely sterling record in his 23 years at the NIH.
What's your reaction to these charges that have been made by Dr. Zhang and Dr. Ma?
Well, my reaction obviously is one of sadness, of disappointment, of a sense that something must have gone wrong that I wasn't aware of, that there must have been misconceptions, perhaps based on language or culture, which started the ball rolling on all of this. And the allegations are absolutely untrue.
Those allegations have shocked many of Weinstein's current and former colleagues who have rushed to his defense. He and his lawyer showed us unqualified testimonials from other research assistants who have worked with him in the past. And a fellow NIH scientist, Dr. David Robinson, says,
there isn't a bad bone in Dr. Weinstein's body. I don't know who's been doing these things. I can't speculate. I have no knowledge about that at all. But I know one thing with absolute certainty, that it's not John Weinstein.
Doctors Ma and Zhang describe a different John Weinstein, a driven, ambitious man and difficult taskmaster who made them work long hours in his quest to develop a potentially valuable and lucrative new method of identifying the genes that cause cancer. And when Marianne became pregnant, they say Weinstein was not pleased when he realized that she would be home with the baby instead of working on his project. He asked Bill Zhang to meet him at the NIH.
When I arrived at the laboratory, Dr. Weinstein just asking whether we are going to keep the baby. I was quite upset. I felt alarmed. I felt shocked that he asking questions this way.
Do you think he wanted you to have an abortion?
Yes.
Was that,
Yes.
Why do you think he wanted you to have an abortion? What were the reasons he gave?
She told us that the project is very important. He won't like anything to hold it up.
But Weinstein flatly denies the charges and says he not only never complained about her pregnancy, he happily agreed to the 6 weeks maternity leave that Marianne requested, and he certainly never poisoned her.
Did you ever suggest to either one of them that maybe Marianne should have an abortion, that the pregnancy would interfere with the work that you were doing?
No, I didn't. And the notion that I should be upset at that, let alone counsel something such has been alleged, is simply totally inconsistent with anything about the way I've conducted myself with other postdoctoral fellows, with colleagues, with family, with friends. It simply is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
While there are no witnesses to support Ma and Zhang's story, they insist that Weinstein continued to urge them to abort the pregnancy, even at the emergency room immediately after she had been poisoned with a P-32.
He repeatedly told both Marianne and I that Marianne should be okay, but the baby must not have been well. It should be worried.
You should be worried about the baby.
Yes.
Was that...
Yes.
Hospital records show that NIH radiation safety officers asked the emergency room staff to collect all of Dr. Ma's bodily fluids for 24 hours. The samples were needed to accurately determine how much P-32 she had ingested. But Lynn Bernabe, Dr. Ma's lawyer, charges that Dr. Weinstein interfered with that procedure, telling the emergency room staff to take smaller samples, which may have made it impossible to ever know Marianne's true dose.
Well, he told them that he was from NIH and that he was giving them orders about what to do in terms of taking small samples rather than having them take their orders from the radiation safety branch people.
It's frankly ridiculous to think that I would contemplate doing such a thing.
You didn't countermand any orders that were given to emergency room personnel regarding the collection of samples?
I did not, and it would make no sense. I had no official duties or responsibilities there. I was trying to provide reassurance. I was trying to provide appropriate friendly face. I was trying to provide suggestions that would help with the medical care and with the assessment of the contamination.
But that wasn't what he was doing at the hospital. What he did at the hospital is continue to harass Marianne and Bill in terms of trying to convince them that they should not have this baby.
Bernabe blames the incident in part on what she calls the NIH's lackadaisical attitude toward handling radioactive materials. And she points to the 19 times the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has cited the Institute for violations, including failure to lock up P-32.
Do you, in the course of your duties at NIH, have access to P-32?
I have not used P-32, and I don't know where I would find it.
Apparently, a lot of other people do. The NIH admitted that several hundred people in Weinstein's own building, including him, could have gotten their hands on enough P-32 to poison Marianne Ma, and no one would have been the wiser.
It is truly a mystery. One of the most puzzling aspects of this case, to me, is that I cannot construct an elegant model of somebody's motivations, anybody's motivations. And that goes for everybody connected with this case. What's going on? I don't know.
You're saying this could be someone that nobody's thought of?
I would not be surprised if that's the case. That it could be somebody who is not even named right now, or connected. That would not surprise me in the least bit.
Investigators are also still exploring the possibility that, for some reason, Dr. Ma may have deliberately poisoned herself. They found traces of radioactive contamination at her apartment, but Dr. Ma says that's because she got sick to her stomach the night she discovered she was poisoned.
Another possibility is that you did it, that you somehow poisoned your wife.
It's absolutely not.
Absolutely crazy. I don't know who suggested this idea. All I can say is it's a crazy idea.
There are people at NIH who believe that that Bill and Marianne did this somehow to themselves.
Well, I think it's an absurd idea that they would choose to contaminate themselves. They are both medical doctors. They really wanted this baby. They were very happy with the baby. And I think the greatest proof of this is the fact that despite the additional risk that both Marianne and the baby now have, is they still want to have this child.
Last week, Marianne Ma gave birth to an 8-pound, 3-ounce baby boy. While the baby was born healthy, the effects of the radiation exposure on his long-term health is unknown. According to some scientists, the baby may face an increased risk of developing cancer during the first 10 years of his life.
Cool. Mom,
what did I used to do after school? Well, we used to watch a lot of TV.
Bye.
Good question.
The compact Presario. Has it changed your life yet?
You build a razor with precision heads to shave below the skin in comfort. And what do you get? Cut a precision groove to help the Norelco lift and cut system shave even closer. And what do you get? Build a razor that shaves closer, smoother than ever before. And what do you get? The Norelco razor, our closest shave ever.
Most family sedans will put a driver to sleep. The Chrysler Concorde was designed to be a wake-up call for an entire industry. It's the original cab-forward design that gives Concorde a distinctive look, sports car-like road manners, and all the room you need. Cab Forward has been so successful, other car companies are starting to copy it. To the rest of the automotive industry, this is your wake-up call.
Hey, there are more presents to open.
Okay, Dad.
The compact Presario. Has it changed your life yet?
60 Minutes will continue.
There's only one thing to do after 60 minutes.
That is not my grandbaby.
You're a grandmother? You're so young.
Get civilized.
Really? You think so?
With Civil. Then...
Don't make any cracks. I'm not in the mood.
Who says comedy isn't pretty?
Can I at least ask what happened?
I wrenched my neck. Duh.
All new, almost perfect after Civil tonight. She spent a lifetime looking for love, but now his friend getting married to the mob.
You may kiss the bride.
An all new nanny you can't refuse Monday.
here on CBS.
Which candidate for Senate saved taxpayers' money? Ron Wyden saved taxpayers $5 billion when he fought the big pharmaceutical companies and stopped their price gouging. Wyden wrote the law that cracked down on food stamp fraud, and Ron Wyden has voted to cut over $300 billion in government waste. Gordon Smith, he cost us money, voting to raise taxes and fees on average Oregonians 9 times, while voting to give a $1 billion tax break to the big utilities. Who saved us money? Ron Wyden.
If you own a home or other structure with exterior interseal siding made by Louisiana Pacific, under the terms of a nationwide class action settlement, you may be entitled to money to replace damaged siding. This siding looks like normal wood siding. A class action lawsuit alleges that the siding may rot, crack, or deteriorate. To find out if you are eligible for money to replace damaged siding, call 1-800-245-2722 or write for more information.
Authorized by the U.S. District Court, Portland, Oregon.
A vigil for 2 local murder victims at 11.
They used to be called unruly children. Then, in an effort to be more charitable, people began calling them hyperactive. Now it's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Experts believe that on average, 1 kid in every classroom suffers from it. More often, it's a boy. Do these kids, literally millions of them, really have an illness that needs treatment? Or are they just a little wild? 7-year-old Bobby can't sit still. He's impulsive, fidgety, has a hard time paying attention in school.
Every time I didn't finish my work, I had to stay. I would miss lunch.
Bobby's doctors have decided that his fingers flying, feet swinging, ants in the pants ways are not simple childhood energy. They are symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. 8-year-old Nick Ruska also has ADHD. His mother, Fran, says she began to suspect something was wrong when he was a toddler.
I could look at my family and say, oh, Nick was the one who broke the mold. Nick was all over the place. My other children were retractable. If I said, oh, we're going in a store, sit in the cart, they would sit in the cart. Nick would disappear in the clothing rack, and, and you wouldn't know where he was. Outrageous things.
See, I would think that this would exasperate parents and that these children would be constantly punished.
They get yelled at all the time. And then I finally get to the point where I'm tired of yelling at them. And so you end up looking for positive. If they walk and sit down to dinner and they don't knock over 3 glasses of milk and trip their brother, you stop right there and say, Nick, good walking, buddy.
Why are we laughing?
I don't know, because I spent a lot of nights crying myself to sleep.
When he was in kindergarten, Fran had Nick diagnosed at a clinic run by Dr. Russell Barkley. Barkley has been studying ADHD kids for 20 years.
How do you know it's just not a normal kid being a normal kid? I mean, a lot of kids misbehave.
It has to be an extreme degree of this behavior pattern. It can't just be garden variety childhood exuberance. Their feelings come out impulsively, their words are impulsive, whatever they think, they say. If they are angry with you, they'll tell you so. If they want a toy, they'll take it from another child.
This is so common.
Well, it's common, but in these children, it is far more common than you see in normal children, to the point where other children within 20 minutes of being put in a room with these children have this child labeled. They will reject and ostracize this child, so that many of these children grow up absolutely friendless.
Did you get in fights with the other kids?
Well, really, pretty much no kid really liked me back then except Walter.
To have a little kid say, nobody liked me, is just heartbreaking.
And nobody did. He got invited he would come home in tears because every single boy in the class was invited to a party but Nick. And I could understand why the parents didn't want him at a party because he was volatile. But I could also see this little child whose heart is breaking and say, well, Nick, what can we do to make kids like you? And practice.
Practice making kids like you. Oh.
Practice not hitting.
Fran practiced everything with Nick. She tried tighter discipline and behavior modification techniques and positive reinforcement and help with his homework.
and the learning didn't improve. He still couldn't remember his letters. His name is Nick. He couldn't remember Nick. So at that point, he's in first grade by this time. This is almost a year later. We went on a Ritalin trial.
Ritalin is the medicine most often prescribed to treat hyperactive children. It is not a new drug. It's a stimulant that has been around for decades. Nick began taking Ritalin 2 years ago.
In a month, he knew his letters. In another month, he was reading. And
A month.
A month. And now he is reading in the top half of his class. Schoolwork is no problem. Now he runs to the bus. It's unbelievable.
Is it a miracle?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely a miracle. I feel like this child has a chance at life.
Like most kids on Ritalin, Nick takes his 2 or 3 times a day because while it kicks in almost immediately, it wears off after just a few hours. It's an amphetamine, right?
Yes.
That's an upper.
Yes.
Like speed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this. Why do you give uppers to a hyperactive person?
Yes, yes. Well, it's difficult for many parents to understand. What is wrong in people with ADHD is a serious failure in the brain's inhibitory system, the ability of the brain to inhibit and control itself. And so that's where the hyperactivity is coming from. When you give a stimulant, it does stimulate the brain's inhibitory system. As I tell parents, it's the brake linings of the brain that are being energized here, and that's why it works so well for ADHD children. It doesn't make them more active, it makes them more focused, more subdued, more inhibited.
That's the scientific explanation. For the kids' version of how the medicine works, we went to Hillside, a private school in Massachusetts which specializes in ADHD kids, and sat down with a group of 8th grade boys.
Do you like yourself better with it or without it?
I like myself with it because when I don't take it, I just all over the place. And my friends don't want to hang around me, but when I take it, I'm a better person than I am without it.
I'm talking constantly when I'm off it, and half the time I don't even know what I'm saying.
Jeff?
I like myself when I'm on better when I'm on it. It keeps me from acting like a goofball.
Can you feel it kick in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what does that feel like?
Because in the mornings you have a lot of the energy that you wouldn't have if you're on the medicine. And then when it kicks in, you just like slow down.
You know, I know of some kids who say that the medicine dulls them and they don't feel like themselves.
I do feel that like it dulls you, and like I don't like the way it does that because like sometimes people like say, "Where's Ryan?" And like, "Oh my God, he's right there. He's so quiet."
We heard the same thing from parents, that once on Ritalin, some kids lose their spark and creativity. Or the way Dr. Barkley put it, they're more subdued, more inhibited. And what are the side effects, if any?
We have discovered no long-term enduring side effects. Mainly it's loss of appetite, which is why in the 60s these were abused by housewives for dieting. It also helps you stay awake, so there's insomnia.
The Ritalin is the same stuff that housewives were taking and abusing?
Yes.
We're really talking about
The
a very common amphetamine drug that we weaned America off.
Well,
And now-
we certainly weaned women off of who were
Weaned women
concerned
off of.
about weight, yes.
And now we're putting a bunch of kids on it.
Yes.
This doesn't
And
disturb
adults.
you at all?
No, it does not. The drug is
Why
actually
not?
quite safe. We have no evidence that at the doses that are used in children, which are quite low, by the way, compared to what adults had been abusing, that there's any evidence of either addiction or dependency. None whatsoever.
True enough. But there is evidence that more and more doctors are giving more and more Ritalin to more and more kids.
May I have your attention, please? Will the assigned students please go to the nurse? The assigned students to the nurse.
It's an ever more common ritual at schools all over the country. Children lining up to pop a pill, their midday dose of Ritalin.
Well, you tell Mommy that you're going to need some more Ritalin.
In some schools, it's 1 or 2 kids. In others, it's 10 or 20 or even more. James Swanson, a professor of pediatrics and an expert in ADHD, says that nationwide, the number of kids is staggering.
About 2 million children were recognized and treated in 1994.
That's huge.
In 1990, 91, there were 1 million.
91, there were 1 million, and 94, there were 2 million.
Yeah.
So we had
An
a
increase.
doubling in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
What's more, Swanson says that because there's no foolproof test for ADHD, nothing that shows up in the blood or urine, many of those new cases are being misdiagnosed.
I think about 25% or maybe 30% of the kids who get the diagnosis may not have the disorder.
You're saying that 30% of children who are being diagnosed with this disorder don't have it.
I think that in the long run you will find out that it's something else.
Swanson's pretty matter-of-fact about it, but what he's saying is remarkable, that hundreds of thousands of American schoolchildren are being diagnosed and medicated by mistake. One reason is that parents and teachers actually want this diagnosis. Parents who feel they're being blamed for their uncontrollable children. Teachers faced with kids who act up or don't learn, and all of them desperate to be told it is not their fault. Maryland pediatrician Robert Graw says he sees the phenomenon all the time. Do you think that teachers are really saying, or schools are saying, I just can't handle it, I don't care what he has, I just want him to be quiet in the classroom, and if Ritalin will do it, fine?
I believe it's a result of feeling helpless. Teachers overwhelmed, families overwhelmed.
Do you actually have mothers and fathers come in and say, my son's best friend went on Ritalin, and he's doing fabulously better in school. I want Johnny to take it. I think it's going to help him learn better.
Every day.
Graw says that many parents are also worn out, stressed out, and eager to grasp at a quick fix.
I want my child fixed right now. I don't even know what the problem is, but the teacher told me it could be a pill-solvable problem. So could you just give me the pill and let me out of here? I've been in your office for 30 minutes already. You know, my time's worth something. And then they come in and they want the pill.
There are doctors who will do what you just said. There are doctors who will say, you want it? Sure, let's try it. Can't hurt. Let's see what happens.
I think that probably there are doctors who do that.
Most doctors don't have much expertise in ADHD or much time to make the diagnosis properly.
A lot of the healthcare changes now have limited amount of time that a physician can see a child.
You mean like at an HMO? Or
yeah, and that the limit is very short, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You can't evaluate an ADHD child in that amount of time. I would speculate that a large number of cases who come through and are treated that way will be misdiagnosed.
Not only are kids misdiagnosed, given medicine when they don't even have the disorder, Swanson says many others with ADHD aren't helped by the medicine.
And I think medication, stimulant medication, is very effective with a percentage of children with ADHD. Now, I think that percentage is lower than other people. I think that most people think is 90% of the ADD children get better on medication, and it probably benefits.
What do you?
I think it's more like 60%. My concern about medication is that it will have an effect of making the child less disruptive and less active, and therefore the parent and the teacher who need to do behavioral interventions with the child in the classroom and at home to teach the child to deal with their own behavior, be responsible for it. Teachers and parents need to be responsible for the child's behavior too. I think that needs to be done. And oftentimes when you give medication, then you don't do the other things.
But is that a reason?
That's a problem. I'm alarmed about that.
And that is the downside, I think, to the diagnosis and to medication, is that sometimes people are too quick to turn to the medication and only the medication when other things may be necessary or would have been helpful for that child. But I don't want to mislead people into thinking that those other things, behavior modification, for instance, counseling, working with the school, are just as good as medication, because the studies that have been published in the last year, my own included, indicate that nothing comes close to what this medication does for children.
For children, that is, who clearly, unmistakably have ADHD, like Nick Ruska.
Aha! I figured out number 2.
Any second thoughts about putting your kid on a drug?
Coming from the 60s generation, we were organic gardeners. You didn't touch even aspirin. So yes, it was a really hard decision. He wasn't learning his letters. He wasn't learning to read. So the ultimate decision was, let's give this child a chance. I'm pretty easygoing. I can tolerate a lot in the confines of my own home. But I couldn't tolerate not having this child learn.
How long do you think Nick will be on this medication?
I have a feeling Nick may be on it for the rest of his life.
Fran may very well be right. Most doctors used to believe that kids outgrew the ailment and the need for medication. Today, the conventional wisdom is that many of them will need to be treated indefinitely.
I signed another customer today.
Oh, yeah? That's great.
Honey, do I detect a little jealousy?
Why? Just because you have a fantastic job with Warsaw Insurance.
Sweetie, being a globe-hopping rock star isn't such a bad job either.
It's just not as fulfilling as business insurance, now is it?
Well, at least you've got your fans.
Yeah.
Unless they're here for me.
We're the business insurance experts from Wausau.
That's good, Gloria. When can FedEx deliver these boxes?
Well, they said they could deliver them by 8 a.m. tomorrow.
That's great.
Or by 10:30 tomorrow. Or on Monday by 8, 10:30, or 3, or same day Valentine's Day, Groundhog Day, on Saturday, or even today. Oh, I forgot, by 4:30.
Now, with same-day 8 a.m. and 10:30 delivery, no one gives you more delivery options than FedEx.
Hey, when can FedEx deliver those boxes? Gloria?
Well, they could get it there by 8 a.m. or by